Hello and welcome everyone to episode 6 of Side Dive. Today I've got a special host, actually just the normal host, Rex.
I'm here.
So it's Prack and Rex yet again. We decided to do this one with two of us because we both have a decent amount to say about the topic, and that topic is classic albums. You know, they're out there. How many of them can you identify that are understood by everyone, where the general consensus is that, versus classics to you? You know, albums that are just timeless and they don't have to be the consensus, but every time you think of that artist, that's your go-to album. The creme de la creme.
Yes.
Yeah.
The cream of the crop. You know?
Hell yeah.
All right.
Good
So,
old Randy motherfucking Savage.
cream of the crop. The magic. Yeah. I love that guy.
Yeah, hilarious.
80s,
So,
80s again. But anyways.
album classics.
Album
Hit me.
classics.
Hit me with it.
Well, hold on. Hold on. Do you want my classics? Or do you want what I think the general consensus classic top 5 is?
Let's do it this way this time.
Okay.
Let's talk about the understood consensus, and then at the very end of the episode, we'll each give our top 5 classics of all time.
I think that's great. So I'm
Yeah.
going to turn it around on you. What's the first one that comes to your head? No thinking.
So album classic for me that just immediately hits me is Master of Puppets for a lot of people.
Woo.
I think it's a big one in the metal community.
No, absolutely. That's a huge winner. Everybody loves that album from
Yeah.
Metallica. I mean, Metallica had a couple of those albums in a row, like that one and Justice for All. And then I think it's Black Album, and I've never really heard anybody say anything bad about either three.
That's a good 3-album run.
It is.
You know, that's another conversation I see come up in the hip hop community is best 3-album run. And then, you know, there's the stands that will always bring up Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP, Eminem Show, which I happen to agree with.
Oh, absolutely. I might be a little stand too here.
But yeah, those are all 3 classics for me in a
They are.
hip hop world. So, and overall, like, just if you were to make a perfect list, those are probably always go to in a lot of people's minds, even if you're not a big hip hop guy.
Oh, definitely. That's one of those timeless things that you don't even have to be a huge fan of that genre,
Yeah.
but it's still just a great album.
Back in Black, AC/DC. I know you don't like them. I know you and your brother fucking hate them.
God,
But that album is like, it's universally known because
for sure.
it's written about Bon Scott, largely the previous
know it.
vocalist, you know. Yeah. So and every song on there, like, it's mostly a banger. There was like
dude,
9
every
hits or
single
some
song
shit.
on that album, I just skip.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet you do, you fucker.
No, but that is absolutely an album that comes up on every list, especially a rock and roll list.
Yeah.
AC/DC, Back in Black, you know, is a top tier one. Maybe not for me, obviously, but for everybody else in the general consensus, yeah, no, change the
Nas,
times.
Illmatic.
That probably would have been my number one.
Yeah.
That one, anytime I think of an iconic, universally loved album, that one usually is first to come to mind
Yeah.
because it is. Rappers cannot stop talking about it, can't stop bringing it up, and it is a fucking great album.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Nas definitely captured rap back then, like everything about it to me.
He was super young when he made that album too.
which is crazy. I
crazy.
mean, it's
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
and how hard to live up to yourself.
How familiar are you with Fleetwood Mac?
Not very. I mean, I know the basics like everybody else does, but shoot it.
Rumors? I think Rumors is a pretty universally accepted rock classic that you'll find in like everyone's record collection who collects hardcore music like that.
Okay.
I know an interesting thing, my dad and I, we go vinyl hunting and we'll buy large collections, and a copy of Rumors is fucking guaranteed to be in there no matter what.
Well, that's how you know it's a great.
Yeah.
I guess that's how you know it's a great.
Come on, hit me with them. Let's just fucking bounce them off each other until
All right.
we name them all off. Because there's a shitload. Music's been being recorded for like 100 years, so, or more. And You know, there are those genre-defining bands where Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, understand a classic. You may not like it as much as the general
Nope.
public,
I
but you know
agree.
that's a goddamn
No,
classic.
it is. It
Yeah.
is that, and name off a couple Blink 182s we talked about. Enema of the State.
Enema of the
Enema
State
of the
for
State.
me is
Most
definitely
people-
classic.
Most people, define that as Blink.
Yeah. I wonder how people feel about that these days with albums like Blink 182's Enema of the State being considered a classic alongside the likes of, Rumors, Fleetwood Mac, Metallica.
It's got to be jarring to some people, especially the older generation.
Yeah.
Like seeing Linkin Park, who's right now coming back with their nude singer.
Yeah.
Is new singer, not nude. Kind of wish she was nude.
I
But-
mean, I think she's probably not a good choice, but we'll have to hear an album.
The album
didn't
comes out in
enjoy it.
November.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold, till then.
Yeah.
But Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory. That's another one. Everybody loves that album.
That is a classic.
It
Yeah.
is, and it's another well-deserved one.
Follow the Leader, Korn. It should be up there. I mean, like Freak on a Leash and Got the Life were huge breakout hits for Korn. There was a whole album cover contest for the next album because of the success of Follow the Leader. So, like, I think of that album a lot. Significant Other by Limp Bizkit.
Toxicity, System of a Down.
Toxicity, System of a Down. Classic albums like Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast album. That's a good one. There's Green Day has Dookie. Offspring has Smash or Americana.
Here's a weird one. Beatles number ones. Even though it's not an album,
It's the greatest, but
it's sold more than any album they have, I think. It's like one of the best-selling albums.
that's interesting to think about. There is probably some greatest hits in there that are more classic than those albums, like maybe Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I think his greatest hits to me is more of a classic than any album in his actual catalog. But that's not because any of those albums are bad, but that greatest hits is so iconic and
Sometimes greatest hits, just like soundtracks.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it. You thought it was weird. Tarzan, the soundtrack to Disney's Tarzan by Phil Collins.
honing back to that conversation, I was shocked when you brought that up. We had recorded a little test run of us talking about this topic, and he brought up Tarzan soundtrack, and I was like, interesting.
Phil Collins, breaks records.
No, yeah, he was
Breaks
great,
everything.
Classic Phil Collins album is like Face Value. He's got a classic right there. There's probably one for Genesis, but fuck, they have so many albums, I can't remember the names of them right now. There's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road for Elton John. I mentioned that one.
You mentioned that one. There's All Eyes on Me by Tupac.
Yeah, that's a good one. Ready to Die, Biggie.
Ready to Die. Ooh,
36 Chambers by fucking Wu-Tang Forever. Forever. That's what I mean. You can do it all day. And I think the dynamic of a classic album, it's much like we talked about with the Criterion Collection for movies in the Beetlejuice episode. Shout out to episode 10.
Episode 10.
But it's something to take away from it. Like Nirvana's Nevermind. They're everlasting.
Do you think the band or artist or group knows when they've done that? Like when they've completed an album? Like, do you think they know that what they've made? Like when Linkin Park did Hybrid Theory and finished it, they listened to the album, and did they did they know in their head that this thing is going to be the biggest thing right now?
I think it's a
Same with
certified
Metallica,
risk. I don't think you know until after you know.
I mean, you can never know, but
But there's those quality artists that put their all into it. Like, even contrary to popular belief, especially first album, like Hybrid Theory being a classic, you've got a band that was just signed, constant turmoil, the label trying to get them to drop the rapper, and them saying fuck that and like,
Hell
we're
yeah.
gonna do it this way. And then the album comes out and it's a
It's a
certified
mega
classic like
hit.
right away.
Mm-hmm.
And they got something to prove. So there's that, and then the Metallica example with like the Black Album. I don't think they know it's a classic, but they know in their heads, hey, we have a shift in our musical style. We're gonna do this. It's gonna piss some people off, but it's gonna gain a whole slew of new people too listening to our music. So it's a toss up, I think. I think you're hopeful that every album that you make is a classic, I think, as an artist. And so I don't know. I don't think they always know, but I think that they have inclinations. Like when Rick Rubin comes in and does Blood Sugar Sex Magic with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, that puts them on the fucking map. Certified classic right there. And then their next album is Californication, certified classic. You know,
It's it's just crazy to think, like, even imagine
mm-hmm.
that this album of music you're about to put out could do that. Like, could become something so changing in music or just universally loved. Like a point case again, bringing up Phil Collins' Tarzan soundtrack.
Uh-huh.
Do you think he knew it was going to end up better than the movie?
No, you know why? Because it's a fucking soundtrack to Tarzan.
I don't give a fuck what you say.
Oh, it's just
That
funny to
stuff
me.
is, dude, it's gold.
Oh, I'm not saying
It's cold.
I believe it. Phil Collins is great, but like
He's
I said,
so
it's
good.
just it's so out of fucking left field to be like album classics, the Tarzan soundtrack.
I'm sorry.
But it's good though. It's good stuff.
It is. I
You know,
mean,
some 41's Chuck
see,
for me.
for me, no, that album is. I don't even know where to put that album because it's so good. I have a top 5, but it's a top 10, and it just moves because I can't decide one day or another if I like this album more than this one or this one anymore.
That's the beauty of the top 5. You gotta really narrow that shit down.
It's hard because I will go into periods where I'll listen to an album nonstop for months.
Yeah.
Not months, probably like a couple weeks. And my
It happens,
girlfriend
though.
will even mention it, and Chuck's one of them.
Yeah.
Chuck is one that when I get in the mood to listen to Chuck,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just one or two songs or one listen to. I listen to it for like a week straight.
Do you feel that way about Dookie? Do you
No.
like that album at all?
I didn't listen to too much early Green Day. The only real Green Day I listened to was Nimrod. Then I've heard Dookie, but I guess it just didn't hit the same for me that earlier Green Day, which I didn't care much for their breakout.
What American Idiot?
Yeah, like it's got some good songs that I like, but I didn't find it to be the greatest that everybody else did.
It was one of those overbloated albums at the time where everybody's like, "Oh, I love it. It's so good. I
Mhm.
like it." I think it's
okay.
a nice change up from what we were getting used to with their sound,
Mhm.
but not a classic. I don't
No.
think. I think there's a difference with that, and maybe that's just. And I'm a big Green Day fan, so I don't think there's any biasness in this at all. But you have your classic albums like that, and then you have your breakout albums, the albums that propel you into a completely different stratosphere. And Californication is probably that album for Red Hot Chili Peppers, but it just also happens to be a classic. But I think the album on the whole, it may be hit or miss for a lot of people, but I've always loved it. I think it's a classic.
No, if you're talking Dookie, most people refer to Green Day's Dookie as a universally loved classic. I just never got into that earlier stuff. Even with like Nirvana, I've listened to Nevermind. I've listened to what was their first one? About it. Bleach. Yeah. I've listened to Bleach. Wasn't my thing. I just wasn't there for the grunge, I guess.
So does that mean you don't really listen to Alice in Chains?
No, not really.
Interesting.
Again, got nothing against them. I think Nirvana is great for what they are. I just grunge never really resonated with me to pursue digging deeper past Nirvana. So I was just, you know, a side stand listener into that genre, and people like Nirvana.
Yeah, no.
So, but I've heard Alice in Chains is amazing, is fucking great. I've heard many people say that, so I've got no reason why I've never dived in.
What about like Soundgarden? You ever listen to Super
I listen
Unknown?
to some Soundgarden.
That's probably a classic up there for me. Or Weezer's Blue Album.
Weezer's Blue Album's great.
Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness.
That is for sure a huge one with everybody.
It's a really popular album, and I love it, but it does have a lot of filler on it.
ICP's The Great Malenko.
Yeah, that's usually generally understood by everybody as like their cream of the crop. ICP is such a funny one to bring up because I like old ICP, admittedly. Like we were talking about guilty pleasures before.
Game Show, great song.
I know people would be like, they're a guilty pleasure that are not hardcore juggalos and shit, but for me, I just straight up think their earlier shit was entertaining and interesting to listen to.
It was different.
Yeah.
They have some great songs. Their Eminem diss song was great.
Yeah.
I love Slim and Anus.
I always really loved the Amazing Jekyll Brothers. I thought that album was fucking comedy. Like, just made me laugh.
They were good. They were definitely a comedy, and it is weird to, you know, talk about them in a universally loved album, but
yeah,
you know, if you've ever heard of Juggalos, then you know The Great Malenko is like their opus day.
You know, we should stop that divide of like, we can't take ICP serious enough to put them over here in the conversation with maybe Led Zeppelin or whatever.
Yeah.
And I get that. Like, you're not trying to compare them as bands, though. You're just talking about their impact on music. And, you know, ICP, love them or hate them, they carved out their place.
They did.
And they have their classic. Marilyn Manson's classic. He did the same thing. He's more of that shock rock as opposed to shock rap. And his is Antichrist Superstar. He's got a couple fucking Mechanical Animals. Most fans will agree that shit is classic, you know.
AFI, Sing the Sorrow.
Sing the Sorrow.
Sing the Sorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I don't remember how to pronounce it. Death Cab for Cuties.
That translandicism.
I
think that's how you say it.
Translandicism.
Some shit.
That album. That one is huge. The Postal Office's first album. And I think, is it their only, or did they do one more? I think they did one more.
The Postal Service?
Yeah.
I think they don't have the one. Or maybe
I thought they did
I know their
more.
first one is a fucking absolute
it's
classic.
fucking great.
Yeah.
Which that one leads on to Matchbox 20.
Yourself or Someone Like You.
Yes.
That's a great album.
Great 90s album.
Yeah.
Like,
and then there's like Three Doors Down. I always really liked that first album, The Better Life. Classic to me. Super classic. Like, it may be frowned upon, but they're just, or Creed. Creed is another band that I admittedly like, and I know
butt rock.
The fucking hive mind is to be like, fuck Creed, and I'm always like, they're of their time, but they're talented musicians. They made some banger ass tracks, especially What If for Scream 3. That song is such badass shit. But speaking of that, their second album, Human Clay, I would say is a classic rock album, like, or the first Van Halen. What I love about this is you could do this shit all day. You could be like Paranoid, Black Sabbath, you know. You can just keep screaming them out, you know.
Okay. So, since it sounds like you have a locked in, what's your top 5?
See, it's tough because I love so much shit, and that's the beauty of the top 5. It's like, it's got to be inclusive. You got your pop albums. Like, we didn't even bring up pop, and I would have brought up Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Kelly Clarkson, Breakaway.
Yeah, or Baby One More Time, Britney Spears. And it's funny because there's so much, and we're just barely scratching the surface, you know. But
Lil Wayne, The Carter 3.
you know, Kanye West, fucking College Dropout.
3, talk about a 3-album run.
Right, Late
Kanye's
Registration.
first 3.
Yeah.
Graduation.
Yeah.
But
back when he was good.
My Dark Twisted Fantasy is good too.
I love that album too. Yeah.
It's great.
Because
it was a 4 for him.
I never really cared for the 808s and Heartbreaks era.
I love it, but
but
I still think the first 4 are better than 808.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah,
well,
so
my
5.
top 5 here. Well, number 1, I think since we each only have 5, we can go into a little bit about each album real quick.
Mm-hmm.
But these are your personal favorite classics. These also don't have to be liked by everybody,
Yep.
just yours, and they can coincidentally be the consensus ones too. But
Yep.
so number 1 for me is probably Demon Days by Gorillaz. That album is a fucking
That
masterpiece.
album is great.
It's just such a consistent album. It's dark, it's poppy, it's colorful.
It's a rich album.
It is.
Just
and
with all the features.
oh yeah.
It's so good.
I mean,
I don't
Feel
even
Good
know
Inc.
most of them.
That's like one of the biggest fucking songs of our generation, like
Definitely everybody.
for everybody. So, number 1, Demon Days, Gorillaz.
That's a good one.
Hell yeah.
And it does fall with the general consensus because anybody who knows Gorillaz loves Demon Days.
That's very true.
Their first album's good,
yeah.
but Demon Days, their sophomores where they just right into the stratosphere.
It's true. It really put them on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is going to be probably Metallica's Black Album.
Okay.
I love the early thrash shit, and we'll get into that next week. Or no, we got into that last week. So, we already talked a little bit about that. But going into it, Metallica's Black Album, that has got to be one of them. It was poignant to my life at the time. I had just started to kind of learn how to play drums, and that album, Load and Reload, were what I practiced with. So I'm going to put that one in there for show.
It's a good one too.
Number 3 is probably going to be the Slim Shady LP. And it's crazy, but one of the biggest reasons I put that one on the list is I was just out of middle school when that album came out, and I was just going to get to high school. So that had such an effect on me at that time, and it's a timeless classic for Eminem. And while I do like Eminem's show and Marshall Mathers LP more, it's really just when it hit me in life. Number 4, it's going to be Hellbilly Deluxe by Rob Zombie, because that was the first album I ever bought, and it ended up being a huge success for him, just off the heels of the White Zombie thing. So I loved it at the time. I think it's one of those fucking just timeless classic, dirty, filthy rock albums, metal albums that doesn't get enough love, and at the same time a bunch of love, but just mostly by his dedicated fan base. And then number 5, a classic for me, is going to be Altars by Sadistic. I picked that on purpose because
Sadistic.
It's not a widely known album by any fucking stretch of the imagination. Most people probably don't even know what the fuck I just said. But if you haven't listened to Sadistic, check him out. But specifically the album Altars, because he's really carved himself out this little niche, dark hip hop that I'm all fucking about. And I really love it. And that album, every one of those songs to me is a classic, and I never want to skip shit on it. So
if you love wordplay, I'm not too big of a fan of Altars, but I love Sadistic. But he is a master of tongue twisting wordplay.
Absolutely.
Just fantastic. So if you love that, check him out. He's a talented guy. He should definitely be more in the limelight.
Yeah, go buy his albums. Fuck streaming them. Buy them.
Buy them.
No, I'm just kidding. Check them out first. See if you like them. But if you like it,
YouTube it.
Yeah.
But
buy those albums.
Those are solid 5 though.
Yeah,
I just want to say
5. Honorable mention. I got 2 honorable mentions.
Do it. Honorable mentions. Welcome.
Brand New's Deja Entendu. That's, I think, probably a pretty good big classic amongst that time period for people.
Dude.
Absolutely love it.
Hitter.
And then I mentioned it to you today, so I'm just going to say Enema of the State by Blink-182. Also perfectly of its time for me, and just hit me at the right point in my life. Like, hearing all those things in a relatively the same time period really is what helped to give birth to my loving everything musically. Like, Not obviously not everything, but just being open minded and enjoying a lot of bunch of different shit.
And that's the thing I think that a lot of people have a problem with, and goes back to our conversation about guilty pleasure in music.
Yeah.
You should always be proud of what you listen to.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean if it's just you and your four boys put on Christina Aguilera's You're Beautiful and sing with it, you know, there's a time and place to listen to some stuff. But you still shouldn't be ashamed if that's what you like. There shouldn't be a guilty pleasure music. If you like Justin Timberlake, you like Justin Bieber,
Yeah.
but you're mainly a rap guy, like you usually just listen to Kendrick or something, you still shouldn't feel bad.
No, like what you like.
Yeah, like what you like. Like, shit, white boy can sing.
Exactly.
You know,
that's
or
why
whatever
I
it is.
admittedly will tell people I love Creed and Limp Bizkit. Like they were two of the biggest bands in the world at the time, but now all of a sudden everybody hates them. It's like they didn't sell fucking 20 million albums because they suck, you know.
Oh, for sure. I like Nickelback.
Yeah,
I'd
Nickelback
love to
is another
joke
good
about
one,
hating
yeah.
on Nickelback because
And I
it's
think
funny.
it comes from that type
Great.
of shit does come from hardcore genre snobs where I'm
Oh,
only into
absolutely.
metal. I'm only into hip hop. And then those are the people that are like, yeah, Creed sucks. And it's like there's probably other people that hate them too, but they're just hating to hate. I think if you could open your mind and go listen to a whole album by Creed or Nickelback or Limp Bizkit, jump in at the right time, do a little homework, see what the consensus album is like, and go from there. But like, you know, for those three bands, you're
They get a
either
lot of
gonna
hate.
love them or hate them, you know. But don't feel bad. Don't have, you know, those guilty choices, those guilty opinion picks, and think, oh, I shouldn't be listening to this. That's whack. Just listen to what
It's
you
whack.
want.
And just so you know, even though you hate on Nickelback, that still bought Chad Kroger's like $10 million house. So
Yeah,
just
hate them
gonna
all
say-
you want. Yeah.
Just gonna say.
You've probably seen, before we get to your top five or your top five classic picks here. I know you've seen that deleted scene with Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool and Fred Savage, and he does the whole Nickelback thing where Fred Savage is like, "Yeah, well, they suck," and he's like, "You know what? I am sick of this Nickelback hate."
Sick of all this hate on
And he
Nickelback.
goes down the awards, the album sales, and it's just like all these like it's like, so who do they really suck to? And it's like it's such a valid point. I
is.
hate when album sales are brought into a conversation of what's good, but I can't deny it.
No,
I
you
can't
can't,
deny,
like-
you know, it's like I
you
can't.
said.
If everyone loves it, that means somebody's doing something right. Because I love plenty of artists that everyone loves. So
You can't. You don't. Like you said, you don't sell 20 million albums sucking.
yeah, exactly. All right, so
Just my thought.
what up, Rex? Hit
All
me
right.
with your top five.
Top five, man. Number one is going to be the Blink 182's Untitled album. Or
Interesting.
self-titled.
Yeah,
It's number one. When I first heard that album, it definitely changed the direction of how I thought about music.
yeah.
Because I was 2003. I'm 12.
I gotta admit something,
Hmm.
and I don't mean this in an insulting way, but it's gonna come off that way. That self-titled Blink-182 album for me is the equivalent to Green Day's American Idiot. It's the commercial tipping point for Blink-182. It puts them into the stratosphere. Like they were popular, but then their self-titled American Idiot fucking that stratosphere popular, like where My Chemical Romance is floating around up there too. Like to me, those two albums are on the same wavelength, and I know that's going to come off as dickish, but that's just how I see. That's how I see it.
Rebuttal. I think you're wrong. It's Enema that does that because they had dropped 2 albums prior before they even did Enema. They were already a known band and they were famous during Dude Ranch,
Yeah,
but they
for
dropped
Josie.
Enema
Yeah,
and became the commercial success that sent them into arenas.
but the same can be said for Dookie. Dookie was huge for Green Day. What I mean by propels them into the stratosphere is they go from being like you see them on MTV all the time to they're making a fucking Broadway musical about American Idiot, and like there's a stratosphere thing. You didn't know about that?
I've never heard that.
Oh, yeah,
That is the
they-
weirdest thing I've ever heard.
There's all kinds of extra content for that album, and that happened for the self-titled Blink album to me because everyone knows the making fun of Tom DeLonge's affectations in
Fucking
that one song.
amazing.
Like everyone knows about it. So it's like, yeah, were they popular for What's My Age Again and All the Small Things? 100%. But so was Dookie for When I Come Around and, you know, drawing a blank to the really big one on that album. But they were already there, you know, but then there's the stratosphere where AFI went from Sing the Sorrow to December Underground. And they go from being the edgy teenagers in school wearing the AFI shirt to everybody being like, I love AFI, brah. And like,
Brah.
Anyway, not to go off on a tangent, but you're number two.
I still disagree just because they did Take Off Your Pants and Jacket.
Yeah.
And that was another, talk about another 3-album run. Blink-182 dropped those 3 back to back.
Yeah.
And although Ediment and Take Off
they're more similar.
Yeah. You know, the Untitled pretty much helped birth the emo scene.
Right.
So helped. Wasn't the sole perpetrator. There's Saves the Day and fucking other people that really attributed more to that. But
agree to disagree. But
what, you don't think Saves the Day?
No, I mean, they're all right. I just mean how we're disagreeing on the placement of those 2 albums. But anyway, number 2 for you.
Number 2 is going to be Brand New's Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me.
Interesting. Good pick.
That album, fuck man, I can't tell you how many times I've listened to that album on repeat. It's another album that I'll just listen to for a week or 2 at a time, nonstop, just over and over. I know every song, I know everything. It's just got everything I'd looked for at that time, I guess, in music on that album. And the album also, they made it so fast because they originally recorded the album. The whole album got leaked pretty much, and they started from scratch.
Yeah.
And they came out with this just banger. I love their last 2 albums and their albums after, but this one is hugely something that stands out for me.
Hell yeah.
I can't, if I think about huge influence albums, it's that one.
Tarzan's going to be on this list.
No, it's not. Tarzan's not on this list. Might be a shout out though.
Yeah.
No.
Honorable mention.
Honorable mention. It might be honorable. Number 3 is going to probably be Silverstein's not Discovering the Waterfront. Can't even remember the album, but it's a number 3 right now.
The second album?
No, their first album.
When Brooklyn is Easily Fixed.
Why am I spacing it so bad? Obviously, I don't like it that much, so let's move on. No. This album,
I hate it.
Was one of the first times I heard screaming.
Interesting.
That first song, Bleeds No More, or not Bleeds No More, it's, I can't remember the name of the song right now, but I remember exactly
Bleeds
how
No
it
More
goes.
is fucking...
Not the first song.
Oh, okay.
It's on the album.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the first
song.
song I heard by them. Not my first screaming band, but if you had to guess, what do you think my first screaming band was?
Lamb of God.
Close.
No?
Slipknot.
Should have thought of Slipknot. I fucking should have thought of that. Damn it. I don't know why I didn't.
Yeah. All good. But yeah, Discovering the Waterfront is a good one. Bleeds No More for sure. I remember when...
See, we're both getting them mixed up.
Labonte fucking...
When
Broken is Easily Fixed, yeah.
Bad time remembering it right now. But anyways,
they got a lot of albums, and I would argue that Discovering the Waterfront is also one of their classics, so it's easy to...
That's their universal classic, for sure.
Definitely.
But this album is just the one that showed me that. Like,
right. The doorway was open.
I was like, what the fuck? I've never heard this.
Well, you also really love, like, This Is How the Wind Shifts or whatever the hell that album is.
Yeah, I think that's my personal favorite of theirs. But
so they're one of those bands for you that just have delivered different time periods in your life, like
for sure.
Masterpieces and classics for you.
There's, I think, only one album they have that I don't like.
Is that newer one?
No. I love the newer ones.
Okay.
They've definitely adopted a new style to kind of bring them to the new age without it sounding shitty.
Yeah.
And they still scream, they still do it all. No, it's called I don't even know the name of the album. Dead.
Dude,
I'm Dead.
you're striking out like a motherfucker.
I am
now.
right now.
Yeah, and they love it apparently. Fuckers.
It's called Dead something, I think. Anyways, wasn't a fan of it.
I vaguely remember what you're talking about, but I don't know.
It's got a red album cover, but either way,
When Broken is easily fixed.
When Broken is Easily Fixed was the first real screaming album I'd heard. Never heard anything like that. Listening it now, it's not that good.
I still really like it, but
I
there's
really
always
like
that
it.
level of nostalgia with stuff like that.
He screams so much better now, and listening to him back then sounded rough.
Didn't they go back and record a bunch of the songs from the first album for some 10-year thing, or is that a different band?
No, they did. They did two of them.
Okay.
They did like the first era and then the second, and then they.
How do you feel about something like that? Like, I know we got 2 albums to go, but just real quick, like, it's the same thing as like remaking a movie.
Smashed Into Pieces is the song's name.
Oh, okay.
But how I feel about it?
Yeah, like, do you think, are there any bands you wish would go back and re-record their first album with everything they've learned and their sound all polished?
Fall Out Boy.
Take This to Your Grave? Huh.
I think it'd be interesting to hear them now do it.
I don't think they could do it again.
Yeah, I think it'd be a hit and miss. Same with Silverstein.
That was pretty hit or miss. Yeah.
Silverstein's, there were some good ones.
Mm-hmm.
They took one of my favorite songs and fucking ruined it.
Which one?
On Brave Mountains We Conquer. It's off This Is How the Wind Shifts, and I don't fucking like it. I don't at all. It's,
for me, I would like to see Metallica go back and do Kill 'Em All.
that would be cool, and that would be justified.
Yeah.
But I feel like they should have done that probably
15, 20 years ago.
Around Black Album. At the height of him still singing like that. Mm-hmm. Their style was still not so different.
Yeah.
Because like you go into Load and Reload, and like we've been talking about, or I've been talking to you about, it's way different. It's
quite the shift.
It's quite the musical shift. But
Number
4 is going to be a really out of the park one. It's Scary Kids Scaring Kids.
Really?
Self-titled album.
Interesting.
I don't know what to say about it. For me, it encapsulates the entire emo screamo genre. I love that album from start to finish. It also has this theme of like being who you are, taking off like this fake mask or face you wear, and it also like, you know, kind of brings these questions of like, just because you're supposed to, is that really what you're gonna do? Mm-hmm. It's got a lot of themes on it, and they just really resonated with me, and that album I can never give enough praise to, and it's one that not a lot of people know. If I hear somebody who even knows who Scary Kids Scaring Kids are, I'm shocked.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I do, obviously.
Yeah, oh yeah, you do.
As soon as you said that, I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, there are a lot of those sleeper bands with classic albums too. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We could do, I mean, realistically, we probably could have done a regular episode on classic albums, and maybe we will.
Maybe we will.
But number 5.
Number 5 is Sum 41 Chuck.
Interesting.
Sum 41's Chuck. Those are probably, the most influential albums, and they all came out around the same-ish time.
Yeah,
the oldest one
part
being Blink-182's.
Yeah.
2003, but they're all right around from about 2003 to about 2010.
I used to work in this burger joint around the time that American Idiot came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of the reason that I'm so standoffish to that album, because I've heard the song American Idiot like
200 million bajillion times.
Yeah, because it's right across the street from a high school. So motherfuckers would come on their lunch break, buy some burgers, go spend money in the jukebox, and I'd have to hear, "Don't wanna be an American idiot."
Yeah,
like, I like the song still, but it's just like it's got to be like what it's like for the artist to play that song live 4 billion times and be like.
400 million times.
I read an article recently where some of them love it and some of them hate it, and there's like no in between. The ones that are stoked to keep playing their big hits, hella love it, but then the ones who hate it are like, ugh, I gotta play this song again. Fuck.
I feel it. My 2 honorable mentions. First one, J. Cole, For Your Eyes Only.
All right.
I fucking love that album.
Yeah.
From start to finish, it's a rap album. I don't think he had any features on it at all. Mm-hmm. The beats were very simple. There was nothing crazy on it. And it was just a great album from start to finish.
Interesting
start
choice.
To finish.
Hell yeah.
And then the Eminem Show.
I can't believe you didn't pull Tarzan out.
What? It's not. It's one that people love.
Yeah.
And it just came to mind because
yeah, Eminem Show though
it was for me the pinnacle of rap.
Yeah.
When I discovered that album, I had discovered D12 at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a kid and I listened to all that, I was listening to both those albums while watching Gladiator and playing StarCraft at the same time.
Yeah.
On just repeat.
Yeah. That's what those. Oh man, that's like a topic all in itself. Like I've got plenty of albums where I'll throw on a game like back when Call of Duty was first hitting everybody, and I was actually into it. There would be so many albums like just throw them on repeat, like Slipknot's first album, Iowa, fucking
Zombie EP.
Zombie EP was a good one for sure.
Fucking put that on all the time.
Yeah, Devil Driver's first album. I don't know. Have you ever listened to Devil Driver or know anything about them? Do you know who the band Cold Chamber is? Damn. So many episodes to go in this shit.
Many episodes.
Not that either of those bands are like, I mean, I love Devil Driver, but I'm not trying to sit here and say you're going to love either of them. It will make for an interesting conversation, though.
Well, bring them
All
on.
right,
we'll
ladies
see.
and gentlemen. So if you didn't notice, this was our first joint side dive where we both decided to fucking hone in. We might just start doing that in general because these are bonus episodes, but I kind of like to think of them as subtext for the main episodes. Like we'll talk about things that are part of what those other things are, in a sense of like we talk a lot about movies and we talk a lot about music, so that's why the theater and the record store and the internet episode are all pretty tangible for our stuff. So we want to probably continue to do this, so we'll probably record more of us doing both of them. I think it works. It's a lot easier than fucking talking to yourself.
Talking to yourself's hard. Like, whew.
I mean, I know like we're talking to you guys out there, but it's really hard to carry yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to do it better than you do, but God, it's fucking hard sometimes.
It's fucking hard.
Anyway, classic albums, deep dive, side dive, episode 6. We want to know your thoughts on this one. This is the kind of the things that we would love to see comments on. Yeah, like get on us on, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere. We're slowly spreading to more things. We'll be on Amazon Music in the next week or so. I'm trying to get us out there to everybody. So
we're trying to spread like herpes. Let's do this.
Exactly. So, but we're going to be the kind of herpes you don't want to get rid of.
Nope. The one you want to make friends with.
Exactly. So we thank you for tuning in yet again, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care, everybody.